300R in one day. That is crazy for any strategy, my own included. Now, these days don't come around every day, but it is essential that you're trading this methodology moving forwards if you want to take the absolute lion's share of the movements in the market. Over the last month or so, I have called out accurately almost every swing on Euro USD to the pipette. I recommend that you watch this video and watch the one which I'm tagging below as well, and your trading will improve astronomically. And if you want to trade this method with me holding your hand, there is an application process to follow, which is also tagged below the video. Enjoy. Right, so to provide a bit of context, this is all what the chart looked like on Monday evening when we were coming to the start of Tuesday. Now, the market had clearly been trending up, and we had H4 boss right at the top up here, and we had Chock, I think it was further down here, but I'm just going to say on the off chance we were watching this area as well, where we'd had a bit of a structural move. So the market had started to sort of slowly zigzag down, which usually indicates after a big push you get a retail kind of channel. Okay, so you get a channel like this, which the market usually, not always, but usually tends to bounce, and then it will break one side or the other, usually continuing that trend where you can get involved in an order block and continue upwards. So we had that in mind. It's not a part of our trading strategy, but the main thing is that we had H4 boss up there, H4 chop potentially here, and we were just entering an area where the H4 was just about to reach a zone which we're potentially interested in because we've got this period of consolidation. So dropping down to the 15, we just had this. Again, super simple. Area of consolidation, the last 15-minute order block, and then down at the bottom, we had this, which was actually just like spread hours. So I wasn't really interested in holding this as an M15 order block. It also looks like, to me, curved liquidity, which is a concept that I talk about in my group. So really not paying too much attention to this area. But I was pretty much more keen on this. So initially I had it like this for my M15, even though yes, this area has been mitigated, but there's 4 bars. Okay, so that's pretty much like an hour's worth of trading sort of bouncing back and forth there. And of course you could say there's, similar going on there and maybe even here, but this area of the 4 bars in the central bit had been mitigated by this. So I was quite keen to look at what was going on here. So dropping down to I don't really use the 5-minute, but I did drop down to further timeframes to see if there was anything down here which made a bit of sense. And we did have a very clean order block on the 5-minute. I rarely ever use it. And then we'll look at the 1-minute as well to see if there was anything even more precise. Okay, so there was down here, which again, it's about 6:30 in the evening. It's not a fantastic time to be looking at trade, but that was still an area which I was looking at. And there was a 1-minute further below, which didn't look that great. So I did it down at the bottom. I had to do it at the top as well. So coming up here to the last 15-minute order block, just as we're reaching the H4 zone, there was a very tedious looking order block right here. Okay, so this is not fantastic. It's just a minor pullback before a press down and a little bit of a gap. Okay, there's a gap here, but this is within the zone. So this is what caught my attention. Then we've got a very clean order block right there, but it hadn't mitigated anything. So one drawback. And then up here as well, it's an inside bar extreme. Okay, so there's pros and cons for each of these 3 order blocks. But essentially what should happen is you should just place your order, for each one of these if you're going to do it. So if you're going to risk, say, 1% of your account per trade idea, I'd recommend it being 1% per 15 minutes. So you'd actually be taking 3 trades at 1/3% each. Okay, so that's the way that I would break it down if you want to be sort of mathematical about it. But generally speaking, I'm not too fussed on taking a full 1% or 2% loss on each one of these because the win rate of the strategy is relatively low, but the risk reward ratio is extremely high, as you will see. So jumping back to the 15, I'm going to give a little bit more analysis as to what had happened overnight. So we're aware of the Asian session. Again, just another confluence. It's not, it's not really going to affect how we trade on Euro USD. But the Asian session is pretty much this. All right. So from about midnight to the start of London, which is 8, you've got this range at the moment. So we could just go up or we could go down, but there's nothing really clear until we get to one of these areas. I'm going to just click forward a little bit and just show you how things had unraveled throughout the day, because it's truly phenomenal. And these days happen maybe once a month, once every 3 weeks, something like that. So, you could look at this video and think, oh, that's a load of crap. Or you could look at this video and study it properly and start taking some of these trades yourself. So I'm just going to click on a little bit until we get to this area. I'm going to drop down to the 1 minute and explain it as we're going in. So right there was our rejection candle, okay, our entry candle. So you could have done this, right? We'd reached this area first. So let me just very quickly jump to the 15. So we had this H4, and then we're likely going to work our way down to the next 15, okay? So if we reject this area properly, the next stop is going to be down here. It's the next 15. There's potential for one here, but if this goes, it's got this whole distance to go. So that's the logic behind the thinking. And you can essentially, set your order right on the entry of that order block with the stop loss right there. It should be 1.1, I think it was at the time. There we go, 1.1. And if you were to hold it all the way down to there, we're looking at a beastly move, okay? So this is not part of the results which I'd factored in, but that's 61R. Would you get all of that? You'd get a little bit less because of spreads and commissions, but you just got to see those as, cost of business. So you don't really factor those in too much. Just make sure that you're on the right side of trades a little bit more often if you're struggling with that. But my entry personally is on the close of that candle, because we've had the rejection, we've had a press down further. So it's, lower. We closed lower than the low of that. We've also had a wick on both, but the stop loss stays in the same place. So you got a 2.9-ish stop loss right here. And your target is just, all the way down the bottom at the next M15, which makes sense. So I'm going to get rid of this Asian box because it's going to confuse us otherwise. And I'm just going to click on, because this day was truly phenomenal. Okay, so we're going to click on a little bit and I'll give you the feedback on structure. So we've got basically our chop on the 1 minute is just here. So ideally we're looking for, if we can get it, a body break. If it's going to be a wick break, then fine, no big issue, but as long as the wick isn't huge. So if it's a wick like this and it's, relevant in proportionality and size, no issues. But if it's a wick like this, then I'd be hesitating, because the majority of these candles are the wicks, and a wick can often indicate a rejection, especially if the wick is long. So just going to click on a little bit and spot where the order blocks are going to be. So there's this one which we've got involved on. Okay, so this would be the close of the candle, and we've rejected the area. That's why we'd be quite happy with this if we had missed that initial crazy one. Okay, so that would be the trade. Call it 3 pips, and then we'd be clicking along, and we're just waiting for an opportunity to get into the market. Okay, so there's no, as far as I can see, no order blocks behind at the moment, but we are getting now a steep pullback, and that's fine. You need pullbacks. If you were in this trade, if you were holding this trade at the moment, you'd be up like maybe 3R. You just got to allow it to come back and sometimes take you out for -1. It's fine. Just don't move your stop losses. What you can do though, in this scenario, because you'll see in a bit that the numbers just go absolutely crazy, that it is okay to move your stop loss once you're in a protected place. And what I mean by that is, if the market, just worked its way down really strong and really sharp, then it pulled back, a considerable amount, and then you got a sharp press down again, it would be okay to move your stop losses down to, somewhere just behind this, new local swing. Okay, and that's where it's protective. Whereas if you try to move it behind every 1 minute, you're trying too hard to suck too much out of the market, and you will get burnt, as I have found out a lot over the last 10+ years. So let's just click on and see what we can get. So here we go. We have left behind quite a clean order block on the 1 minute right here. So I'll just draw this out on the chart. So that's the area which we're considering now. Okay, let me turn that into a 1 minute, and I'll mark this on ready. Oops. Okay, so 1.5 pips, target all the way down there. And we'll look at the 15 as well, just to consider where it is and what it's doing. A lot of people would be put off by the fact that there's wicks forming at the bottom. I know that I would be, but in reality, now these days, I just don't really care because the strategy is so profitable. I really don't care for losing streaks anymore because I still hit them. I still go on losing streaks. The day after this day, just so you're aware, I took 6 losses in a row and I don't really care. And you'll see why. So back to the 1 minute. We've got, just trying to think where my charting has gone. Oh, I turned it off. Spent a little bit of time then trying to think where are all the charts. Forgot that I turned it off temporarily. So anyway, we've got this breaker structure. We've left behind a nice order block, and you can literally just place a trade. Don't be afraid of getting slapped out too much when there's no red news and stuff like that. So you should be generally fine. Okay, and what it looks like it's done is it's left behind another order block, but this one is not valid unless we get, a decent break of this low here. Okay, so if we were to be following the trend down, and it's absolutely fine to include one of these. So I'm gonna put M15 boss, but it's not. I'm just gonna highlight this a different color. I'll make it red and text. We'll just make this 1 minute boss. Okay, so following that down, if we get a decent sustained break of this, that would now be an order block. But in order for you to get into that, you'd be thinking, right, I'm going to be kind of over leveraging my position because this trade will still be running. Okay, and that's something to bear in mind. Okay, so I'm trying to point out to you with this strategy, especially on this day, that this strategy gave out X amount as opportunities. It doesn't mean that you're going to take the whole 300R or whatever it became, but just the sheer amount of opportunities that you get trading this method. And yeah, you can say, yeah, well, it just worked because it was a trending day. Well, we know that because I share videos of weekly trading where we're stuck in ranges and we still perform 40, 50, 60R in a week. Just so happens to be that we got a good trending day here. So even if you miss a handful of these trades, you're still going to get a monster if you take your trades properly. So anyway, let's click on, because I don't want to make this video too long. But here we go. So this one's already been mitigated now, so this wouldn't be valid if price was to drop down below. Anyway, let's click on, or we're never going to get anywhere. So what have we done? We've broken down again. And we've left behind this, it's not great, it's not fantastic, but it is an order block where we've got essentially just imbalance there. It's an inside bar. It's got the swing to the left, which I don't really like. I prefer it being on the right, despite that being on the left, but it would have been an entry. This one's on the left, but it's a very clean order block. But I don't usually like trading the inside bars, but they've been fantastic recently. All right, so we've got the potential for an entry right here. The market just continues. There we go. We literally just appear to have tapped in. And if we hadn't tapped in, I think that there we go. There's an actual tap in. So again, this is going to be a very small stop loss. 0.9 by, yeah, it's 0.9. And again, I'll move it to, to the target where it needs to be in a little bit. But while you're taking these, you just got to be thinking that, let's say, for example, now you're in these 3 trades. For every 1 pip that this moves in your direction, you're increasing, by 1 on your account, on your equity. And with this one, for every 1 pip, it's increasing by 0.66. And with this one, for every pip, it's increasing by 0.33. So, you've got a decent amount which you're floating at. So your balance and your equity is going to be going absolutely crazy in your favor, but the pullbacks are going to be very painful. So you've got to pretty much learn to live with the huge swings in numbers, because sometimes you will go plus 20 and end up at -1. And it happens to me really often, but it's when you can scale into the big moves, like what we've seen on this day in particular, which is going to make you a millionaire faster than anybody else who is trading, all day, every day, getting a 1 to 1.2 with a 65% win rate, which quite frankly, I think is just, you swapped a job for a job. It's not, it doesn't suit me. And that's fine. And again, look, another order block being left behind, as long as we don't rebalance it, which we hadn't. So there's another order block right here. No one right there. Let's just get this off so it's not messing up our charts. Move this down. I don't really use the bottom chop lines anymore, to be fair. I just use it for demonstration purposes. Now, what we have, sorry, I was just about to say, what we have right here is, again, a nice opening gap. All right, so an opening gap, don't know why, it's between 10.04, 10.05, just not really a relevant time. I would again be marking out and saying, okay, so we've got this, but should we increase it to here, which is the last push up? I think, being fair, probably would. And I'd also include the push down. So this would make it look a little bit rebalanced, and that's okay. But generally speaking, it's fine. So there's another trade there, which I think that we'd probably be a part of now. Definitely now. Okay, so I'll mark this on as well. But you'll just see just how phenomenal this day truly was. And, again, I think I said it earlier, I can't remember. But, these days do happen once every, I don't know, sometimes like every 2 weeks. It really depends what time of year it is a lot of time. But once every 3 weeks, definitely. And to be fair, I don't really post these videos. I don't post the scalping, or, it's still intraday trading, but it's just using the 1 minute with the 15 minute and 4 hours of structure. Don't really post them on YouTube because they look and sound unbelievable. And of course, yeah, you will get slipped into positions as well, but normally when you get slipped in, your stop loss is moved with it as well. So, it's just these little nuances that you just generally tend to learn the more experience you get in trading. Okay, so right, anyway, let's click along. Thought we were getting stopped out there, but we didn't. And we have again an inside bar situation. All right, so we've got the push up, we've got the gap. So you could say, like, fair enough, these are quite strong wicks, so you'd probably chicken out if the opportunity arose. But if you really needed to, if you wanted to, if you just felt like you're on a roll that day, which to be fair at this stage you definitely are, that would be the order block. Your order will go on here like this, like that, but don't get the opportunity. However, what we do get is another order block right here. And I know posting a video like this is going to get me stick, but I'm just showing you what the possibilities are if you trade this method. It's quite simple. There's multiple sort of factors that you do kind of like factor into your trade, multiple confluences. But again, you've got to understand what it is that you're trying to trade. Otherwise, are you gambling? Probably. Again, another order block left behind. Very neat. So there's one there. And the market's still not really showing any signs of reversing. Now, you could look over on the left and get very distracted by all of this. And, probably that, and maybe this. But my advice to you is that if the market is trending in one direction, don't think just because of what's on the left that it's going to stop. Okay, it might do temporarily. If there's an order block that we're running into, yeah, we've just swept it. We've pushed up a little bit, but we still closed bearish. So it's indicating to me that this area is gonna fail. We're gonna end up breaking this low. Might be wrong, but more often than not, that's the case. So don't stress too much about the other areas when you've got the direction correct in the first place. So anyway, we get tagged into this one, which is a bonus. And if this one fails, we got this one as a backup. Okay, and at the same time, these are still running. Now, I did have a question in the group: would you not be over leveraged if you were getting into all of these trades? And the answer is yes. Yes, you would. But it comes down to one, a little bit of trading experience. Two, not to over leverage yourself on every position anyway. And three, you can trail your stops if it makes sense to do so. So for example, if I was now getting involved in this trade, I'd probably move my stop losses, kind of probably behind this one, maybe behind this. So I'd have at least maybe 2R locked in there, 3R if I move it to there. I'd have a little bit of this one, maybe 1 locked in there. So it'd be, I'd be up 4, and I could lose 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'd end up break even, and it'd be a little bit frustrating because I'd be up right now about plus 20, plus 30, maybe even a little bit more. But if you want to make the big money, you've got to go towards your target, right? And not really worry about too much of what's going on. I keep forgetting to move this because I just don't really use them on my charts, but they are there. Another order block. So we got into that one, didn't we? Got the inside bar one with, just want to check and see. Yeah, so we got the highest candle there. Got another one at 0.9, which again is phenomenal. Some people would have got stopped out, some people wouldn't. You were within about 0.2 of staying in, and it happens. And then again, if we get a decent break, we've got another order block being left behind. So this was the day that just kept on giving. I just happened to be doing my finances with my accountant, which was fine. I don't blame her for me missing any of this because I know that this is going to come around again in a couple of weeks. Now, this is an instance where, to be fair, I probably wouldn't take this trade at the moment, because if I look at this, we got a very kind of unconvincing break and then a strong push back up. So I'd think that this is going to get broken, and we might work our way up to maybe this one to tag it in and then go. So might get a -1 there and a -1 there, but just keep on going. You would have been tagged in, right? But if you do too many of those, you'll probably end up in negative as a whole. So just going to jump to the 15 and see where we're at. Okay, well, okay, I think that jumped a little bit. But as it stands with a lot of those trades, we're already doing pretty well. So there's one, and that's up 14R. Okay, there's another one, and that's up 7. The first trade that we're on is currently up 11. So it's very easy to want to punch out at this point. But trust me, if you do one of these days and get, even a quarter of what this allows, and you hold your nerve throughout the whole day, trust me, your brain will be mentally exhausted by the end of the day, or the end of the session. We're at 11 o'clock. We've only been going since 8, half 8. So, in 2.5 hours, you'd already be like a bag of nerves sweating, just because the sheer amount of money that will be going through your account. But you must hold these trades, because if you do, you're training your brain to hold for the longer term, which is exactly what you need as a trader for long-term profitability. So let's keep on going anyway. Not really leaving anything behind apart from this, which looks kind of all right to me. So again, just a bit of an imbalance. Just take it to here. No, actually, tell you what, I'll go to the top. I would normally take it just for top of that candle, but we'll take it for top. And just be aware, if there are any order blocks left behind, price could easily just come back up to them. So if price just literally went like this now, like that, all of my stop losses or trailing take profits, all of them would be lined up behind this if it was a sharp pullback. But so far there hasn't been anything sharp, So you would be sweating buckets, for at least the amateur trader, you'd be sweating. Your stop loss would be, yeah, behind here or behind there, and you'd be very nervous. But you've just got to have faith, okay? Just have faith and hold these trades. And if you want to see me holding any of these trades, by the way, I've got a link to my group below where I give pretty intensive onboarding training and bits and pieces. But when I live trade, I'll live stream and I do it in what? So that's behind the application form. So feel free to fill that out if you want to join. I've got another one here. Sorry, missed it. I was talking over that. And sometimes I'll post the odd thing on Instagram, so feel free to follow me on that as well if you want to. But yeah, we've got another one there. And that one is a fail. Okay, so that one is out. We get a nice breakdown. And there's another order block formed kind of right on top of it. Let me just move that out of the way. And I'll just shift this to here and that to there. All right, that looks very ridiculous. Let's do that. Another 0.9. Now, a lot of people will say you can't trade, 1 pip. And it's like, well, for about 4 months earlier this year, I did, and really successfully. But when Trump came in, I had to switch it up. I had to switch it up to about 3 pips. But the market seems to have calmed down a little bit since then, which is good. And we'd get another loss right here. Okay, so I'd be thinking in my head, right, okay, we've actually had potentially chock here on the 1 minute at least. So at this point, I would be checking the 15 to see, is it wise to just cut my trades and go? Where did we come down to? Okay, so again, let's take those off and think of it like this. We'd got past that area, which initially people would have considered, but knowing that there's, a potential for us to go through this imbalance to at least here and then probably down to there and then break down further, this might well just be the pullback which we need to get to here, or maybe even to here. And that's a decision that you're going to have to take. If you're in multiple trades at the moment, there's no shame in just tapping out, taking all of your profit off table and try to start restacking in with your new equity once we get to these areas. Or you can just hold your nerve and just go. But my recommendation is just hold your nerve, because you're training a good muscle memory at that point, okay? So this trade's now triggered. All right, so 2 losses here, then we get tagged into another trade. And ideally, we want to see, oops, I'll get rid of that. Ideally, we want to see a break of that low. And those shoves down are a good sign. And you could even start, I know it's kind of internal to an extent, but you could start looking at, right, there's an order block there, we got the break, there's an order block here, you wouldn't have been tagged into it, but you can start looking for them pretty much straight away. Having said that, there aren't any. It's going to say that doji as it was forming, and you'd be in it. There you go. Body break, we're back in business. That would have been decent wherever that doji was, up here, I think. Yeah, that would have been good. There's another one right here, which looks like oh no, there isn't. Sorry, I thought there was, but there wasn't. Yeah, actually, it kind of isn't. Oh well. Well, it would have held. And there's one there which I wasn't paying attention to, and we'd have lost that one. Okay, so I'll just put an X there so we don't get confused in a bit. So we've again pushed down, broken up. Again, you'd be considering, oh, okay, we're chalking upwards. Okay, but we need to pair it with the 15. See what the 15 is looking like? It's just revealed a little bit, so sorry about that. But you'd look at the 15, at that moment in time, this would be a strong green candle, and you'd be thinking, yeah, okay, maybe I've misread something and we are starting to recover. And we're going up to this M15 right here. But you'd be forgiven for getting that wrong. Okay, so let's just keep on going. Strong drop. Quite like this up at the top. Again, just go from the imbalance, take it to the top. Could just do the order, the actual inside bar, but take it to the top if you need to. Would you get this? Probably not, because we haven't broken the low with much strength. That didn't come in anyway. But again, we've left behind the potential for another one. Okay, so we got this one too. Go up to there. And that now, after that break, we've been left behind with another, which again is quite an ugly one. I'll cover the top right there. Put right there, get pushed down, and it looks like we're about to hit our next M15, which often price will pull back just before you get there. So a decision time down here, do you hold it down to the absolute target? If you're not at your screen, then it doesn't matter. But if you are at your screen, you can either hold your nerve and get that that sense of feeling when you see TP, TP, TP on your phone. You think, oh my God, you know, there's no better trader than me. Or do you take your profit here and then see it go further and think, oh, I could have got more out of it. I think regardless, after something like this, even if you got into one of these trades, I think you could be proud of yourself, especially if you held it. And there we go. So a lot of these were taking profit. That one, yeah, so that one entered and that would have got to there. That one would have lost. That one would have lost. This one entered. I think there was one which didn't even trigger. Yeah, that one. So I'll take that off. Take that off. We stayed in that one. So far, so good. Look, so we've got 20, call it 22, 39, 61, 26, 24, 48. Call these -2 each. So yeah, -4, -6. This one, 23. Phenomenal. Okay, I've probably missed a couple as well. Like I might have done anyway. So let's just watch what price does when it gets down to here. But we need to now assess the 15 thing. Is there anything that we've left behind? Okay, are there any odd blocks? Is there anything which hasn't been mitigated that's rebalanced perfectly? There's a rebalance, which there's potential to get into a short from. So let's just mark this up as a, well, actually it's just a rebalance. So you could assume this might be a trade from it. But moving up, there's a nice order block there, but the rebalance is here. Okay, so you switch to the 15, just cover that. You set your alerts because you would expect, especially with price action like this, that if price is going to pull back, it'll pull back to here and then continue down. And it'll go to the next M15, which we'll go and identify now. So this one has been rebalanced. And then we've got this horrible little move down there, and there's another one down there. So if we look at that, which isn't great, that should just get obliterated when price gets to it. But let's see how that alters things, bear in mind you'd be out of these trades now, but you've got that, which is another distance, and that as well. Okay, a lot of people will say you wouldn't hold those trades, and it's like, you never know. Like, you never know. But when you see it happen more often than not, you do start kicking yourself and you think, why am I not holding my trades? And I think that's largely, like, we've done a lot of work in my group lately, working on the psychology of holding your trades. And I think it's come from collective frustration of we're getting most of these swings literally to the pipette. Over the last month and a half or so, maybe 4 weeks to 6 weeks, we've called almost every trade accurately, like exactly accurate. But a lot of us are tapping out before we hit our targets. And you need to hit your target. At the end of the day, that's the difference between a very good trader and a professional expert. So we're trying to hit expert level. I'd class myself as an expert, but obviously I need to have the continued traits of the experts, which is stack all the positions and hold all of them all of the time without hesitation. And I'm getting there, getting close. It's just a matter of time now. So it's all good. So we're pulling back strong, by the way, completely forgot. And also completely forgot about this. We had an M1 down here, which we've marked out. Now, this price action alone isn't enough for me to want to get involved. I did say down here in the group, I think I did, a lot of price action looks the same on a day-to-day basis. But at this point, when you've had this type of candle followed by this one, such a strong rejection, you can pretty much guarantee it's going to go to at least here on a pullback and maybe even the next M15. Theoretically, it should be the next 15 because we're just leaving a 15. But this is counter trend. So with that being counter trend, we might just be heading back to an M1, and you just need to consider that. Okay, so counter trend, try not to do these trades very often just based on instinct. But you certainly wouldn't be setting a pending order off of this one with it being an opposite directional trend, which is why this first trade was done based off of the reaction rather than the actual order block, because that was technically kind of counter trend, especially on the lower time frame. Higher time frame, it was pro trend, I think, but lower time frame, counter trend. Okay, so I'm going to click on and I'm going to try to just shoot through this next bit quite quickly because price just takes a while and we're still only at 3 o'clock. And as you can see, yeah, it came up to there and price worked its way down. And you would be in that one as well. So again, you'd be in there and you'd be targeting, again, just the next order blocks below. So you'd be targeting at least this one. So again, you'd have taken profit on all of these. You'd be up like bloody, 250, 280 at this stage. What's, -1 on your account if this doesn't work? It's nothing. It's covered you for the next year for a lot of you. So, really, really powerful. I do get asked the question, can you do this sort of trading on prop firms? And you'll just have to check and see what their spreads are like. If their spreads are diabolical and you're getting slipped all over the place, the answer is no. But otherwise, yeah, I don't see why not. But check their terms and conditions because this is highly profitable. And I've heard something mad about some of the firms. They don't like you making so much profit. I might be wrong with that. I don't use the prop firms myself, don't need to, but I know that they are a good option for a lot of people. So I'm not gonna shit on them. I would use them if I was in the position where I needed to. So good opportunity to make money. Anyway, we have had essentially chock, right? So we've had chock, we've had price come down, we've actually retested the area. I was going to mark that up to go back, but we've got an order block here. Gonna put that as a 1 minute as well because it is, and got a 1 minute here. And something that I didn't do just then was there was a 15 which ran through here. Frustratingly, I've just deleted it, but the 15 here, I'm pretty sure close back in the range. Okay, so one of our trade criterias, which you'll learn if you manage to join the group. So it's application only, by the way. Please don't be offended if you don't get selected to join. But it's application only. But one of our entry criteria is close back in the range, which was the same as the first trade. So you'd be thinking that this is going to recover. up to here. And if you're not sure if we do actually call this, I'm pretty sure a couple of the guys in the group will say, yes, we have been calling all of these trades. I just don't have the time at the moment to go through and screenshot everything and try to upload it into the video. But yes, we call a lot of the trades. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But yeah, we're just still going up. That looks like a push up and a close back in the range. So you'd be thinking potentially go short. And then we've got these. What have we taken it from? We're taking it from this. Okay, so there's another opportunity to go short. But I'm just going to skim through this. I'm just going to do it on fast replay mode now. See if there's anything left behind. There's this, which is quite nice. Oops. So that to go long, possibly. This has just had a scare, but we're thinking probable recovery to this 15, especially at this stage where we've had such a strong rejection. Look at that. Just the way that price moves from zone to zone. And that's all what we're doing. Like, you'd be tagged into this trade going long now as well. Even though you'd be in the short. So just take that at the next 15. And, you know, just in case you guys are thinking like, oh, you know, this just seems like too predictable, I'll include the link to another video which I've done recently below, which I'd recommend that you go and watch after this one, and then come back and watch this again and just see it's the same strategy. I teach it pretty much for free on YouTube, but if you need like hand holding or an actual community where we do work together when our alerts are going off, you know, it'd be dead as hell, like super quiet during the day where there's no trading going on because we're focused traders, and that's why it's application only, and that's why it's also premiumly priced. You know, I don't want it open to everybody, and that's why it's not going to be free ever. So, oh look, we've left behind another one as well. So it's only quality traders, and yeah, we're doing all right. Got another order block, which is literally this trade now. But we would, oh no, I was going to say we need to break up there, but we've actually got the boss this level. Got boss already. And I've actually got some onboarding to do in 10 minutes for the new group of people who have just come through. So I'm going to have to speed up this video. All right, so let's just click on through and see if we can get anything else. There's potential for a trade there, but I'm not going to mark it on just yet. Oh, get rid of that. It's confusing. Have these been used? No. Would you be taking these trades? No, because we're currently counter trend on the M1. We're waiting to get up to here before we can start looking at shorts again. Right, so we're in a long. We just got stopped out of this one. I want to get this video before I jump on my call. I'm pretty sure I stopped, you know, doing the back test of this anyway at about 8 o'clock. So we're close. We're really, really close. Ah, guess we didn't do it. Oh, we did. So we'd reached target on this one, almost pin perfect, you know. And again, just so you're aware, let's have a look on the M1. Didn't do this a second ago. I don't see an order block, if I'm honest with you. There's not. There's one here. There's one above. Okay, so maybe stretch that out and just cover the two like that. Oops. But you would have same scenario as the first trade that we took here. And if you wanted to use a you know, an optimal stop loss, you know, maybe 3 pips, typical stop loss, 3 pips off of that. And if not that one, definitely this one. But pretty soon it goes into spread hours, so you'd be quite cautious to hold the trade. There's going to be other opportunities to take further trades. Let's clear these off now. But you'd be in this, and you'd be trying to go down to this one, because that's the next target, right? There's another 23. So I'm just going to flick to the 15 and just round this off for you, where you can actually see it. I'm just going to play on, because I'm pretty sure price did go down in the end. Don't know if it went all the distance down. No, it didn't. It didn't in the end. It didn't reach all the way down. But I hope that you can see from this backtest that, yeah, the thumbnail says 300R or whatever, but it's 300R worth of opportunities. Now, whether or not you think you can get all 300, yeah, you certainly can, but you just got to be an absolute machine in your brain, and just not be phased by the money. And that's taken me years, literally years. It's taken about 5 or 6 years of really intensive psychological training. Like, I've got a couple of therapists who I see. I've been to hypnosis, multiple books on it. But now, there's so much certainty in the strategy. I frankly couldn't give a shit about losing. I just don't care, because the winners are so decent. And I've steadily grown a very small account into a very decent account. So yeah, just keep doing the strategy. But again, like I said before, if you want to join me, apply below. And if you're not ready for that yet, that's fine. Just follow the other links, watch the other videos, which I'll tag below. And of course, still do apply on the form, because I am going to start giving away, some resources, or some will be a little bit less pricey than the training, but still, I hope that this has been good, and I hope that you've learned a few lessons. Long story short, you don't know that the market's going to be trending until it started trending. Okay, so we looked back on this and we looked at the results in the group, and we were very well aware that we were all getting hindsight bias, thinking, oh my god, like, look at this. But nonetheless, what monster moves there are, beastly days, and we do get them. Anyway, catch you in the next one.